I didn't see them.
Yeah, they came from Elaine.
Oh, maybe they came a long time ago.
Okay, so we will, no.
Within the week, I think. Yep, within the week is,
So because a member didn't read them, we will put that off till next meeting.
Sorry
Okay?
about that.
Oh.
I did look under Jane's name and not under Elaine's for them, so,
Yeah, all of the minutes are coming from Elaine.
okay.
All right?
Yeah.
The next meeting. So now I will open it up to, we will welcome public comment. And I would like just to remind folks to, state your name and address. For the, the benefit of the public before you ask. And I hope some folks are joining us on Google Meet. It's hard to tell right now. But I'm assuming if they're on Google Meet, if there's any way you could raise your hand or use the wave function, I'm not sure how to do that.
Wayne Eddy has his hand.
Elaine Eddy,
Wayne.
Wayne Eddy. Okay, Wayne Eddy, could you state your name and address? We will be able to hear him.
It's Wayne and Tina Eddy. We live at 5 College Street.
Hey, welcome, Wayne. Please state
Thank
your
you.
name and address and feel free to go forward.
Wayne Eddy, 5 College Street. So excuse me? Yeah, you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Just barely.
Oh, all right. Sorry, we're,
Up a little bit.
is that any better?
Yes.
Yes,
All right, so we live at 5 College Street, and we are abutters to a, what is that? What is that pass? We're abutters to a development that's being put in by Ron Nation. And there's a buffer zone, and in the buffer zone, that is where there was a proposed trail. But that proposed trail would like eliminate every bit of privacy that we have in our backyard, because our house is at the back side of the property line. So we are extremely opposed to having that trail go through the buffer zone.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Eddy. It's mine, first of all, is Mr. Nation out there? Okay, I don't see Mr. Nation out there. It's my understanding that Mr. Nation negotiated all of those mitigating circumstances with you. If my understanding is different than yours right now, I apologize, but perhaps we could get Mr. Nation here at our next meeting and he could speak to that issue.
Yeah,
Or
right,
you could
well-
reach out to him individually. I'm not sure what is the best way to handle that.
So I walked the area with him, and he's in complete agreement that the trail shouldn't go through the buffer zone. And so he's not opposed to making changes, but I don't know whose decision it is, which is the reason why we're, participating in this meeting. We just want to
Sure.
voice our opinion and concerns. That's all.
Okay,
but-
well, I think that that's important, and I think that because we're getting different conversations here, I think it would be important to get all the involved parties here so that it could be addressed specifically. Do you think that that would be appropriate? Mr. Eddy?
Sure. I mean,
Okay, why don't we
yeah.
see if we can get a hold of Mr. Nation and get him here for our next meeting?
Okay, that would be great.
No, it would not be the 13th, because we are going to have our workshop at that meeting. It would be the first meeting in May. Oh,
wow.
okay, so get that. It would be the first meeting after town meeting, and we will get back to you on that. But let me get my calendar out. I can tell you what that would be.
Here, April. I thought we were on, thought we had a meeting next
April
week.
is
and
the
also that
last
we-
meeting, and April 13th, we agreed would be the
A
second
workshop.
meeting of the month. And then the next meeting would be our town meeting. meeting, which we will be, but it wouldn't be for anything else other than us to meet. So hang in there, Mr. Eddie. I can give you that date.
Aren't we on for 1 week from today and also
All
2
right,
weeks?
so
Okay, but that's the
the May 19th,
meeting.
Oh, 1 week is.
1 week, April 13th.
okay,
Yeah,
Mr.
but-
Eddie?
What's wrong with the 20th then?
It would be May 19th.
Okay,
Agreed.
I'm sorry, May 18th
17th would be our second meeting. We're not
For the
doing 2 meetings this month.
We're not gonna have
Oh,
three.
we're not doing the 20th.
Correct.
We are doing
Yeah.
2 meetings, but they're back to back.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the 20th, I believe, is on the town's calendar, correct, right now.
I'll take it off right now.
Great,
Fix that.
thank you. That's good. Helpful to know.
Meeting
It
is The
is, right?
first Monday in May, which is May 2nd.
You would call that a meeting.
Yes, and we will call a meeting of the
Thank you all.
committee on May 2. Okay? All right, who else is out there? Oh,
So-
yes, please, we have a member of our audience.
Wait,
This is a
so is
little
it May
socially
2nd?
awkward here in the room, but I'm coming up here so people can
Sure.
see and hear me.
Well, thank you for that. That's very thoughtful.
So I'm Amy Groves, 2 College Street, probably a neighbor of yours. I have a procedural question. I'm trying to figure out, to what extent does this proposed way of aligning, joining the 2 trails, what does it have to do with town meeting exactly? I see one line item in the CPC article on the warrant. Is that the only thing that this has to do with town meeting? Or is in any way town meeting part of the decision-making process?
Well, the town meeting members would vote on a CPC article, yes.
Okay, so that's basically it.
Yes.
That's the only way in which these 2 things are set.
Yes,
Okay. So-
all of the warrants are subject to town meeting vote.
Follow-on question, with your permission?
Sure.
So what would be the impact? This looks like it's for, what is it, segments 5 and 6, I think it is. I can't remember whether segments 5 and 6 are in the southern third, or are they?
Well, segments 5 and 6 concern the 2 different schools. Segment 5 was voted on and approved at last year's town meeting. And that goes through from the center trail, crosses the loop road twice, and it goes between the high school and the Hopkins School, and comes out on McDermott Drive, which would then cross over to EMC Park. Segment 6 is from EMC Park through EMC Park, around the Marathon School connector, all the way down to 147 Hayden Row.
Okay. And what would be the impact? I'm not proposing that anybody do this, but what would be the impact if that line item were actually voted down at town meeting? What would be the negative impact of this project?
Not much really, because we would just continue to do our intake and continue to do our research and continue to answer all of the all of the comments that we get from our public workshop, which we're hoping will be a very good turnout. And then it's our job to take in all of that information and analyze it and answer everybody's questions and find out what everybody is looking for.
Okay, thank you for taking my question.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Those are actually very helpful clarifying questions.
Good.
And the more we could get of this nature would, that's very, very helpful.
Sure. So do we have any other folks that would like to ask some questions?
I have a comment, if you don't mind.
Sure. Could you identify yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Scott Nouse, 175 Hayden Row. I wanted to, maybe people have heard about it, but we started an advocacy group, underscoring advocacy, supporting the trail. It's called Hopkinton for a Safe Upper Charles Trail. And so I just wanted to extend to Jane, the team, the committee, if you guys are open to either meeting with us separately to discuss our concerns or our platform, we're willing to do that, or if you wanted to invite us back. But just wanted to make you aware that we're on your side. We want to team up with you guys. We appreciate all the effort. And we just wanted to ensure that all the safety concerns are all in one place addressed and accordingly. So.
Well, thank you very much for coming forward and advising us of that. Because our number one concern is safety, so we're all on the same page as that concern.
Okay.
So, I believe we would like to have you come back to one of our meetings. I think that would be the most appropriate way. Because whenever we get together, we have to call a meeting. And then it's recorded, and I would like to give you the time to really explain what your committee is doing.
Appreciate that.
Would
So-
that be
Yeah.
okay for you?
Yeah, we welcome that. We appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, so,
For May 20.
May 20.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, what did we already call for May?
May 18, right? Well, we have.
No. Oh, yeah, Ron Nation would be here. He wouldn't take long. I don't think. Hmm?
That was, you just went through that.
I could provide a document in advance to the committee as well. if that-
Sure, that makes sense.
You let me know when.
Yeah,
Well,
because if you
before
would,
town
the
meeting,
sooner
Rob.
the better, because we might be able to.
Would you
together.
include your membership? Who's on your committee?
It's a list of about 60 people.
Mhm.
But I can provide the core members. We don't have a governing board other than me and a few people, so. we can talk about that.
Be called
We're more of a cause than a group, that we're a group. Facebook calls us a cause.
Sure.
Facebook.
Okay, so the sooner the better,
Okay.
because then we could, prepare our information so that we're ready to, so hopefully supply with you some answers at that point.
I can do a document next week.
Sure, and I really would urge you to encourage all of your folks involved in this group to participate in our workshop, because you may get many of your questions answered at that time. And that,
Do that. There's also a budget meeting at exactly the same time, so I know we're divided on that.
Dave's
I know.
Dave's eyes are spinning.
So they both go hand in hand, of course, so.
Through the chair,
Yes, Cynthia, I'll get to you next.
through the chair, if, Mr. Lewis, you could, let us know whether 5 or 10 or 30 people might come, because we might need
I don't want
to
change the logo.
request, the select board room or some such.
I'll get a rough attendance.
Just,
I'll walk you.
just that would be a help.
That's an excellent question, Cynthia.
Don't bet you, we'll get more.
Oh, that's always true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, could you stand and identify yourself?
I'm Mary Jo Andrica, 2 College Street. The workshop is a week from today, the 13th, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to be out of town, so I request that I state my opinion tonight, if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Perfectly fine. We're welcome to
I'm,
have that.
I'm a frequent user of the Upper Charles Trail in Milford and Holliston for walking and running. And thank you for your work. I think most of the trail is terrific that you propose, but please, please don't run the trail along Route 85. You go to the trail to be in the woods, not to walk along a busy street. There are lots of options for me to run and walk along a busy street now. I'd like to see the trail going behind the houses, not in front of the houses, crossing driveways. It's not safe. And it's not the trail experience that one wants when one goes to the trail. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Do you have any folks out there? I can't tell if they're raising their hand or not.
No. Amy, Wayne, Michelle, Katie, Deb.
No?
Nobody's.
Okay, Peter, would you like to add anything to our meeting? Okay, with that, I guess we will now close the public forum. And thank everybody for comments. We'll certainly incorporate them and hopefully have some explanations for everybody on the 13th. We really hope that you can join us. I do know that HCAM will be recording it. So if you can't make the meeting, you can certainly view it at a later time on YouTube. Okay.
Which is very exciting if you're away.
All right, so we will now have a discussion on the public workshop to be held at the Hopkinton Senior Center, April 13th, from 5 PM to 8 PM. So, before I hand it over to our engineers, we're hoping that this will be an open dialogue where everybody who is interested in, joining this conversation, come and take part in this open forum. We will have maps on the map on the wall. We will have two very large tables similar to this that will show a little bit smaller than this, that will have the enlarged maps that will show the entire proposed conceptual route from the Milford Trail to the Hopkinton State Park. And within those conceptual trails, we will explain to you how we started off 7 or 8 years ago with conceptual trails that we got from the Conway group, and that's available online. We actually we studied all of those trails. We eliminated some for obvious reasons that we will explain to you at the workshop. We kept others. And as we continued to grow through the years, studying all of these different segments, we call them segments now, yes. We gained, we were able to eliminate unsafe areas. We were able to gain the community's support to purchase more property. So we opened up a lot of other resources after we left the Conway group. That left us with a proposed conceptual trail that we have today. And that we showed everybody in our, let's see, what was it now? No, I think it was November meeting. And then in December, we had another meeting and we gained more information. We then took all of that information that we gained in the December meeting and we added that to the map. So folks can actually see in a graphic manner where all of these proposed conceptual trails are. And that's what we deal with. That's what we work with. We work with the facts. What is the safest? Where can we go that is most acceptable to the folks of Hopkinton? And we continue to take in information. We continue to gather the facts. We hope at our meeting that folks will take this and look at these maps and have questions. They can either take a sticky note and put it on the map or a comment. They can do the same thing in a live presentation. If they cannot make the meeting, and this might be useful to you, if you cannot make the meeting, you can join through Google Meet. Through the Google Meet, you'll be able to connect to a file where you can then make your comments live and we will capture them. And that will all go into a huge document, a huge file, where we will then generate more fact sheets. And we will continue to take that and continue to grow with that. So having said that, if anybody has any questions before I hand it over to the engineers, hard to tell if anyone has any questions. No, I guess not. We will hand it over to Dave Del Torrio, our town engineer, and Matt Chase from BHB. And before I go any further, I would just like to recognize our team members who are Matt and Dave. Elaine is from, very great. We're very grateful to Elaine to be running our Google operations here and taking our minutes. And I also saw Michelle Murdoch out there, who is our consultant for our
Project special.
specialist. So thank you very much, Michelle. We really appreciate all of your expertise and your excellent work. So I'm sorry for that little side trip, but I felt it was important. So it's all yours. Take it away.
Thank you, everyone. Again, I was asked to just kind of give a brief summary of, you know, what'll be at the forum and what we're trying to do there and how we're gonna try to capture input from folks who show up and again, from folks who aren't able to attend. Well, like Jay mentioned, there'll be a Google Meeting link. There are other meetings that night. If folks are going to other meetings, we do start it's gonna start at 5, so if you need to get to some of the other important town meetings going on, they tend to start at 6 or 7 o'clock, so folks hopefully can attend. After the meeting, we'll also, which I will tell the committee for the first time, the webpage under the town website is live for the Upper Charles Trail Committee. You can get there through the town departments link, and it's under land use. There's a link to kind of a history of all the studies and evaluations. There's a link to the plans, kind of a historical set of plans. There's really been 9 kind of sets of plans since 2012. Media is that for evaluating alternatives. There's a couple folders that are under construction for, you know, shared use paths, just kind of typical design standards and comparative projects, kind of a public outreach, a Q&A, and miscellaneous documents. So there's also, more important, there's a link there to sign up. Write your email and you'll get all information. You'll get notices of any changes, of meeting notices, of press releases that go out. And we'll have, you know, important documents for kind of a quick link at the top of the website. Everything that gets presented at the workshop next week will be posted to that website. So that if you can't make it, you know, all the graphics will be there, all the boards. And more importantly, there'll be a public input form that we're asking people to fill out. It links to the graphic of the overall trails that have been evaluated to date, as Jay mentioned, as well as trail alignments that have been presented to the committee since whenever.
Yeah,
I'm not exactly
from the
sure
beginning of
which time they were presented, but, and folks will be able to, you know, on a simple form that we're trying to recreate or create. If you look at the map, you can see which section of the trail you're looking at. There's kind of some check marks in the between. What are some of the challenges? Is it on private property? Is it on public property? Are there wetlands? We tried to capture some of the major headings, and then just kind of a simple, you know, do you like it? Do you not like it? Or are you neutral to it? So we're hopefully trying to show all the different alternatives and alignments that the committee has looked at that really got them to the point of last November, where they could start in December getting a lot of public feedback or getting public feedback on that process. Unfortunately, you know, I could have put some of those alternatives on the original trail, not on the original trail, but all them alternatives to those plans that were shown in December. And it would have helped, I think, clear up a lot of the confusion of why didn't it look here? Why didn't you look there? I'll take that responsibility.
Yeah, but we're going to show it all.
We're gonna get it all,
That's part of the
Sure.
process.
at the workshop next week. I am trying to work on having that handout, you know, create QR codes for the form itself as well as for the town webpage. So it'll get you directly to the Upper Charles Trail webpage. We'll have a couple other boards that show, you know, typical cross sections and what a shared use path is. They blanked on the 3 boards.
One was going to be this safety signals.
Yeah, there's a, you know, typical crossings, you know, enhancements. Just one board to kind of show the different types of enhancements that, you know, you can have at roadway crossings other than simple pavement markings. What was the third one?
The bridge.
Yeah, in a graphic of what a belt and suspenders, Mass DOT pedestrian shared use path would look like. actually constructed, on the Bruce Freeman Trail in Acton. Again, it'll show you the, what a flyover bridge or a shared use path can look like. It's not intended to just to say that's what is gonna have to be built, if something like that would be built, but there's been a lot of discussion, been a lot of evaluation, of how to cross Hayden Row, not at grade. The only way to do that is to go below it or go above it. So that would be, kind of this is what you might expect, through a TIP project. What TIP project is, federal and state funding to build, a shared use path according to Mass DOT guidelines. Well, there'll be a lot of information there. Jane mentioned, we're gonna try to have two locations set up, not quite tables this big, but, where we'll have, we're trying to schedule someone from VHB and someone from the town to be at each table. We're gonna try to set up a computer screen or monitor so people can go to wander around the room, take a look at the plans. If they have questions, they can come to the tables and ask technical questions, ask process questions. And we'll be able to have a computer screen on the table to be able to zoom in and take a closer look at areas that you might have questions. And we're really hoping that everybody who goes will fill out a form. There'll be an email, there'll be a name, there'll be a checkbox if you want to sign up for the emails. And an open comment question. And as we're trying this out, we'll see how it goes, and we're hoping that it's just an open, really forum where everybody can share ideas, and that's what we're really looking to do, is gather all that input.
Matt, do you have anything to add to that? Barry,
For Dave, so you envision any kind of is it a complete open forum the way you just described it? Is there any organized sit-down presentation or
No.
Q&A going on in a group?
In a public workshop forum like this, we probably, at 5 o'clock, might give a similar, 5-minute opening, just kind of, these are the plans that we have out for people to look at, have forms on the tables, point them to where they can go if they have questions, and then just more or less have it's really an open kind of workshop kind of forum.
so that people could gather around the table and have a conversation after the introduction. I suspect after 15 or 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour, then they'll go on. The beautiful thing about having it on Google Meet is that folks at home can click in and see the group. If there are a lot of people, they may want to come later. Because it will be a repeat discussion throughout the night.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I was getting at in my head, how are people going to be assured of their input getting documented?
But we're gonna have a form for everybody to fill out.
That form you're talking about is the formal input.
Yeah, it'll be, and they can fill out as much information as they want. You can just fill out your name and address. And then there'll be an open section for just any kind of comments or questions. People won't be forced to fill out any like or dislike of different segments or different phases or previous alignments. And it's really kind of intended, to be kind of a free, open, no pressure. A lot of times people want to stand up in front of a mic and in front of a big crowd and ask questions. The tables will really be set up kind of as a one-on-one. Depending on how many people show up, it will be kind of like the public forum, ain't gonna be, the people sitting at the tables aren't gonna be able to, focus.
So is it, you figure you have to publish that input you receive on the forums on that website?
What we do with the information, we'll crunch the numbers and we'll figure out through discussions with you folks what we want to do with it, and we'll probably present those results. Presenting them becomes, sometimes as hard as figuring out how to get input.
I'm just wondering what to do with the input. How to
Yeah, hopefully
how to manage the input.
yeah, hopefully it'll be, you can envision if we're in a perfect system, everybody who goes will tell you if they like or don't care about every segment shown on the map. And then you can kind of take that and simply add it up, say, 100 people showed up, 60 of them didn't like this one, 60 of them liked this one, 100 of them didn't like this one.
That'll be on the agenda for one of our meetings.
Yeah. We'll review all that data.
Yeah, they'll review the data that they collect.
And we'll, the open question box is sometimes the one that takes time to, you try to read them all, you gotta group the same kind of questions and comments in the same area, and then kind of, you say, these was kind of some of the open questions that we will receive through these forms. 50 of them were similar, and then we had about 30 different singular kind of comments, so. And people will be able to have access to, again, after the workshop, it's ideal. From my standpoint, people will be able to go to the website, pull up all the graphics that were shown, and still provide input on the same form. You can open it up as a Google form, we can have a link, so that it will go to the same place where anybody else at the meeting wants to open up that form electronically and fill it out. Still working up the details with that. It's a little different with IT. It's a little different than, we're gonna have the form. Everybody knows where you go to a workshop, you can put up a piece of paper and you can write down and you hand it in. We're trying to, get as many folks as possible to scan that so you can fill it out on your own phone. You could take the form home and think about it and want to ask questions 2-3 days later, a week later, a month later, so.
Before I get to Cynthia, could you speak to the QR code that you're going to have pasted on the wall and also available to folks?
Yeah, I mean, it's the, I'm not the best technology person. You scan, there's usually a
Take a picture of the
picture,
QR.
you open up your camera and it knows what to do. It scans it and it brings you to
To
the magical
full-
cloud and
to-
it
yeah.
does all these great things for you.
And you can enter your comments there.
And it'll be the same form, trying to do the same exact form that you have in hand that you can fill out at the meeting. It's going to have all the same information on it, I hope. That's what I'm trying to work out with IT. So that, if you don't want to fill it out there, if you don't want to, while you're at the meeting, if we run out of pens or pencils, there's gonna be other ways to fill out this form. And more importantly for me, it's gonna be able to, people will be able to use this form. It'll be on the website, and we're gonna have a specific folder just for, this was the workshop. Continue to look at the information that's in this folder, a month, 2 months later, and still submit that form. And we'll be able to add that information to whatever kind of database we can create from all the information received.
So we continue an ongoing process. And the other thing I would like to stress, I know there's been a ton of conversation about this very small section of Hayden Row. But I would just like to remind people, this is a very long, about a 7 or 8 mile trail that we have been busy working on, all the way from Milford, all the way up to Hopkinton State Park. So it really encompasses potentially not only the interests of our total citizenry, but especially East Hopkinton, where a lot of these parts of the trails could impact neighborhoods. So we really are looking forward to everybody participating who are interested. So Sin, do you have a comment or a question?
Along that line, and Dave, to you, Dave, I understand how most people will be able to access and add their input, whether it's a sticky note or scanning the code and getting in there and filling out the form. And that all sounds like all those aspects will work. But I do think of some of our seniors who are just not that comfortable in trying to find things. There's a frustration that hits after about 12 clicks in my experience of helping, or 4 clicks. But my point is really that these are valuable residents in town who will most certainly be using the Upper Charles Trail. And I can't quite puzzle out in my own mind how to best reach them so that we are hearing from them as much as we are hearing from other residents in town. Any ideas? What can we committee members do?
And then we provide them with a form.
What I can,
Great.
what we've been talking through with, you know, again, it's a collaborative effort. I'll be talking with the senior center director, Amy Beck, library director, Nancy Hill,
Great.
you know, town hall. What we can try to do, and again, we're working on all details, we'll probably try to set these graphics up, at least the role plan at town hall, at the senior center, at the library. You have that form there, with that, and we can make up signs, you know, this is the trail. You can reach out to Michelle through email if you have questions on it. The folks at the senior center, library, town hall, if people have questions, they'll know who to point them to so that we can gather that input. And where to put those forms, I don't know if we'll have drop boxes or we'll have something along those lines to kind of keep getting information from the public.
Thank you. Great.
We're gonna post it in, I know we were posted it in the library has a monthly newsletter, we missed the senior center one by a couple days. We tried to get the flyer for this workshop into that newsletter. We've incorporated email logs that senior center or library might have, again, just so we can, any information that any other town department has gathered, we're trying to coordinate with them to just.
That's just super. The more people that have a form in hand, it's gonna help. Thank you.
Any other members? Yes, Bob.
Not exactly on the workshop, but I just reread the FAQ, frequently asked questions.
Could we hold that? Because we want to finish up with the
Wasn't that-
workshop.
Isn't that part of the workshop?
No,
That's
that'll be liaison report, yeah,
Okay.
something.
Okay.
I think we can always jump back to that, but let's stick with the workshop. Ken,
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the form will be available in the library for people to fill out for several months. That's the plan?
Well, I'm hoping, you know,
And secondly, do we know what the form is gonna look like yet?
I don't think they do, but
I have a draft I'm working with IT on.
Okay.
I think we need a shout out to IT.
Yeah, and again, it's intended to, you know, as to not have to. It's not gonna have a whole lot of questions to answer, you know, or ask, because, you know, they wanna tie up committees, you know, you could go on for weeks, you know, originally we were trying to talk about doing a public type of survey. In our initial discussions about that, it ends up being, what do you ask? And that, you know, that's worthy of an agenda item in a committee discussion. So I just keep in the form too simple, what's on the graphics.
Yep.
It shows what the committee's looked at to date, other alignments that they've received. Just to get people's ideas of all of those different alignments that you've already looked at. We've certainly heard a lot of input on, you know, the alignment that you folks presented in November, December. The Rails Club, Peter came in and did a presentation. We've heard some comments on that. And get all that stuff on that one plan and just, the plan is gonna show, you know, private property, it's gonna show public property, and it's gonna show wetlands. So those are kind of the three major roadblocks for most, you know, trails. Is it on public property, is it on private property? And how much wetlands are you gonna really impact? So, and again, it's just that type of information is vital when looking at evaluating these, you know, trail options from a 10,000 foot level.
Okay, well, it is all hard work and hard discussions, but we're getting there. Ken, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, so in particular, is the form gonna allow people to say they would prefer to go down the Echo Trail versus the eastern route? And will they be able to say whether they want to go on Hayden Row versus west of Charlesview? Or, I think that's an important consideration. And at this point, I don't know whether that will be something people will be able to
Yes.
support on the form or not. Okay,
Yeah, the form, I mean, there'll be an open comment box
section.
where you can write in anything you want, but.
well, sure,
um,
I understand that.
we're Focused on getting people, there's, what's it, 25? It's like 25 actual sections of all the different trails you've looked at. We're hoping everybody will give their opinion on each one, if they like this one, if they don't like them, or if they're neutral to it. So I think they really have two spots to provide that type of input. Or they could just not fill anything out and just say, I prefer this and this and this section, as they're identified in these plans.
Okay, doubles in the details.
Would you like to add anything else, Ken?
Nope, I mean, I think a lot depends on what's in the form. So to take, a historical, example from not long ago, the planning board asked questions about sidewalks versus trails, and, in that case, I'm not clear as to whether people were answering anything about the Upper Charles Trail. I assume not, since it didn't specifically mention it, but, people have thought about whether it was appropriate to use input from that form to determine, for example, surface questions for our trails. And, all I'm saying is if you want to get a specific answer, then you have to pose a particular question.
I have to be careful not to
Yeah.
lead and point
You have to be careful not to lead, but you have to also include alternatives clearly so that people know just what, if this is a form that's going to be tabulated, then how it, exactly what those questions are is going to matter a lot as to what the input turns out. I mean, what the output, when it's put together, turns out to signify.
Okay, Dave, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, when I was explaining the form, that there are not gonna be any questions to try to lead people into asking any specific questions on any specific section or second. It's based on, it's more these are the segments. These are what each segment impacts, and there's no quantifying how much impact. Like I said, is it on private? Is it on public? Is it wetlands? Is it crossroads? Again, we don't get into quantifying numbers. And then there'll be just simply, I like this, I don't like this, or I'm neutral to this section. And, there are no questions asking, 'cause like you said, and like I was touching on before, when we discussed a possible survey, like a public survey, what questions you ask, I think Eric brought up is the critical aspect of that. And as I mentioned, I'm not coming up with those on my own. That would be worthy a whole agenda or a whole meeting for your committee. So I just want to get the real basic responses from people without really kind of leading, having any information on the form that makes this one appear better than that one. It's just maybe check marks, and people can make their own decisions up if they want to fill this out or not fill this out. And then, as I said, there's a whole section will be, suggestions, comments, thoughts, type of open box. There'll also be, Michelle's email there. If anybody has questions they want to ask after.
Yeah, we don't want to forget that there is going to be a big box where people are free to put their comments, to be as specific as they want, just as Ken suggests. Yes, Eric.
Well, I think we can't confuse workshops with elections. If this thing is set up as an election, before the people have the facts that will come out of the workshop, it seems that we're just funning ourselves, because someone will come in with a preconceived notion, vote it, and the majority of the town won't know there's an election going on. And I think we stick with the workshop format, and we'll know by reviewing the comments what the basic opinion of the people is.
I'd like to take that one step forward and just try and remember that this format, being an open workshop, is also very different than a survey. very different. So, anyone else from the committee?
Be confused there.
Confused about
I
the
keep,
form.
Norman. Either is
Norman.
Sure.
Oh, hi, Norman.
Because I think we should. talk
Welcome. You have your hand up.
Thank you, through the chair. Good evening, everybody. I
We
just
can't
want
hear
to
you.
make
Can
sure.
you turn your volume
Oh.
up by any chance?
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much, everybody, for your efforts. I feel it might be helpful based on the question that Ken is asking that were very clear. Ken, the intent behind the scheduled meeting is to solicit input. There is no intention on the part of the committee to make decisions regarding A or B or C. We simply want to collect input. There will be opportunities in the future to make those decisions and those choices. Let's focus on sending the message that the consistent with the message that went out perhaps a couple months back, is continuing in its efforts to receive input. The meetings that have been scheduled have been influenced and informed and educated by the conversations that have been going on so far. So I really want the committee to make it clear to everybody that the intention of having this meeting is not to generate some decisions or choices right away. It's a first, it's a continuing step in collecting input. That input will be then put together, analyzed, and then developed into some form of report for the committee to then go back to the community and one more time continue its conversation. At some point in the future, yes, choices will be made. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Ken might have a follow-up.
Yeah, so, in that regard, we are being forced to make decisions at town meeting, which is not very far away, about a lot of money to go onto various aspects of the trail system. So I agree with what Norman just said. It would be great if all we're doing now is seeking input, and that we're going to make decisions later. But in fact, our community is going to be making decisions at town meeting unless we withdraw the CPC request.
If I may, Ken,
Yes.
through the chair.
Yes.
Yes, I can understand and respect why you will take that position. Let's also think about the process that the town has put together for different entities to seek funding through town meeting. One of those options is CPC. CPC announces an application period. And it is not uncommon, I've been in the town for 13 years, it is not uncommon for committees to bring ideas that are still under consideration as potential actions for town meeting. When that happens, as the process moves forward, preparing for town meeting, there are decisions made to take action or take no action. So the idea to tell the public now that people are being forced, I think is unfair. There will be decisions made between now and town meeting, what actions need to be taken. I believe the CPC, like any other committee, and the Upper Charles Trail Committee are doing its best to position the town advantageously if decisions are to be made. So specific to the application to CPC, I honestly believe the process that the committee has started may lead to a different decision based on the information received, a decision that may be different from when the committee put its request before CPC.
Yes, in other words, we've had multiple open meetings and public meetings and workshops since we made that decision. And we continue to build our decisions based on this input that we are getting. So, we have to continue to be open-minded.
Well,
Yes,
follow up to Norman's comment that he was indicating that the committee may decide to withdraw the CPC.
based on
At
information.
what meeting? At what meeting will, we don't have any meetings, that.
We have a meeting at the town meeting. We will post a meeting. We always do.
So you're saying it could take place at the town meeting?
No, we would.
That night.
Separately on that day
I see.
by posting a meeting. Virtually all the committees do.
Yeah, all the committees do. That's not unusual. Yes, Cynthia.
Jane and Norman, if I have your ear as well. My understanding, I'm asking to be corrected if need be. My understanding about CPC funds is that any committee that requests funds and is granted funds does have accountability. There are, metrics. There are things that must be met. And in my experience with Parks and Rec Department, there came a point when we were reviewing what CPC funding we had received on different projects, and we had not gone ahead and with one project, and we returned that money to the CPC well. Is that correct, that should funds be requested by Upper Charles Trails Committee and not used for their purpose? It's not thrown away. It could be returned to the town or redirected. How far off am I on that?
Through the chair,
Yes.
you're absolutely correct. And in fact, I think it's been 2 years now when that the town has adopted a grant agreement for all CPC grants. And that grant agreement brings in accountability. As you rightly pointed out, yes, there's a mechanism for funds that have been approved to go back into the CPC fund. And if I may also through the chair,
Yes,
we in April, we still have some time before town meeting. For the committee to post a meeting, you only require 48 hours notice. So I want the committee to know that you have the ability to post other meetings before town meeting.
yes, we usually do. So thank you. Eric,
Through the chair, representing the CPC committee, the article that deals with the Upper Charles Trail and the engineering request, even though town meeting may vote it in, it still requires a vote of the selectmen to approve the plan and to vote to allow us to spend the money. So this thing is double protected, one, the way Norman said, and two, by a special caveat in CPC that says you don't have anything yet until the selectmen approve it.
that's a good point. All good points. So anything else on this conversation before we move on to Bob's? Bob's question. Okay, thank you, everybody. That was a really healthy discussion and I appreciate everybody's additions. Bob, you had another question? It's not exactly a liaison report, but you could, it's up to, I can allow that.
Well, yes, the frequently asked questions, which I reread today. I first want to say, Dave, I think you did a great job with those. They are a very good summary of every, and includes all the contrary input that's come along on pretty much every matter they put there, of 9 things, I guess. So all I wanted to say about that is that I am this kind of literal person. And my problem with titling a paper frequently asked questions is that the heading should be questions. If you're gonna make that title. And I would call it I would leave it exactly as it is and call it a summary of issues. And which is a very minor semantic point.
I'll make a motion,
That's all that,
make that.
that's all there is to
No.
that.
Could I again what Bob's saying?
Okay,
I think it should be as of a certain date.
There's a date on here.
yeah, there's a
Well,
date
I
there.
mean, it should refer to the public meeting.
There was a,
There's no comments we've received since the meeting that are posted.
yeah, there was many emails from the public.
That's true.
And they continued to come in after the public meeting, to my knowledge. I mean, I kept
They're
getting,
getting added to the.
yes, they were included in that. The only thing I can think of is that frequently asked questions is a commonly used term in not only this industry, but in business. And people know what that means. So I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, there's the intent of that, the volume of input that was received from the public forum at the senior center and the time between then and when, February, kind of required us to, again, we grouped all the questions, the bulk of them that were asked into those 9 questions. But there was a lot of other so-called spillover questions, that, the webpage is up. We're planning on posting another kind of response to, all the other questions. Might have been only one question asked. So we really tried to focus all our efforts on, 80% of the questions were those 9. So we focused all our attention on those. We do have a general Q&A document that'll come out. I hope, we're working on it. It's currently, it's about 18 pages or so right now, so it's just a huge document that, that keeps growing as additional questions continue to come in. So we may maybe just split that into, a number 1 and as of February something, and
Yeah,
finish up the one because we get additional questions from February to now that we're, kind of working on. And so yes, there'll be just a kind of a general question and answer that document similar to an FAQ format. That's gonna come out.
right, continued from that date to this present date that we're putting on now. I'm sure
Is this,
with some,
is this gonna be part of the workshop then, a handout at the workshop?
no, because
No.
I think our intent is to get folks' input on this whole project that we're now talking about. I think before it was it was different. It has changed.
I do want to try to get it out before next month.
Yeah, I mean, I think this aids and abets the workshop very
Yeah.
well myself.
I'm trying.
But that's just me.
No, I
We'll
mean,
have something out by Friday. If it's not completed, we'll get out what we can and what we've completed. Because there are a lot of questions that have been asked that we haven't responded to formally yet, which is, again, I think responsibility.
you're right, Bob, that is a good document that might help people get up to speed of where we are now. Eric,
I think we have to be careful that by giving people 9 things that they think everybody cares about, will stifle the creativity of the people attending. They say, well, this is what they care about, so that's what I'm going to talk about, rather than things that they're thinking and their general input. So I think what Dave did with this question thing is spectacular. And I think it should be passed out, but I don't think we should use it as a driving force within the meeting. It's information that people have, but they're gonna go to the different stations And we want their input through the whole trail,
Yeah,
not just zeroed in.
I agree, but I would offer this as a handout. at the
It
meeting.
might be useful to some people.
Would handle it.
Good suggestion. How do other folks feel about it? You think it's a positive idea? Good. Okay. So let's print it up. Okay, another good discussion. Thank you, Bob. That was great. Well, future agenda items, we have the next 4 agendas filled up, I think.
I think so.
Kind of took care of that as our meeting went forward. Liaison reports. I think I might have skipped over that. I just have one thing from the planning board, and this might be of interest to maybe Ken. The planning board subgroup that worked on that survey is continuing to meet. That's not the end of that survey. We continue to meet and continue to have a conversation about our next steps and how we're going to further take that document, similar to what we're doing, take that document and move forward and continue the conversation. So that is not the end product. We're continuing to move forward with that as a subgroup.
That is good to hear. I hope it follows up with specific actions on specific streets at some point, as opposed to remaining kind of
I don't-
nebulous as to.
I'm not
which
sure.
part.
We haven't met, but I'll bring that forward to the group, and I'm not sure where they're thinking of going with that at this point in time, but as a liaison, I wanted to bring that forward. Anyone else have a liaison report? Yes, Eric.
I have 2 liaison reports. One, the town manager's office with Dave Del Torrio and Elaine and
Michelle.
Michelle have all been very supportive of
Yeah.
what we do, and then the communication has been outstanding. In the case of CPC, they stand by their vote for our engineering funding and want to make sure we understand
Mhm.
what it takes to spend it.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Ken, do you have anything from
Well-
TCMC?
CMC has discussed what sidewalks might be useful in various parts of town, but we're early on that one.
Sure.
Mostly, thinking of just general connectivity with the other trails in town that don't have to do with the Upper Charles Trail in particular.
I can tell you that that's parallel conversation that we've had with this planning group and subgroups. And I believe Gary was going to reach out and invite to another meeting, various groups who are interested in trails, get their input. This is one town, and the more people that are joining in all of these conversations, the better product we're gonna have all around. So, we hope to see you there when we get to that point. It's still early in the conversation. All right, any other, liaison? Sim?
Nothing happening.
Okay, well, with that, if there's nothing else to say, I'd like to entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Okay, great meeting, folks. I appreciate all of you coming. Either in Google Meet or in person. Very healthy discussion.
Very good.
Yes. Yeah, that's very handsome.